Bruchim Aboim B'Shem Hashem B'Shem Irgin Shir Torah. I'd like to welcome everyone to today's shir from Yakov's Asmith Shlita on eating without a bracha. Hichnes Michael Lepiv and Itzka Shlibirech. Have great exclusive sponsoring a shir call Irgin Shir Torah at 718-851-8651 or email ist@yeshivanet.com. Harav Smith.
This past summer I heard a sad shayla. Someone was in the middle of a bread meal and he asked me, he realized he didn't wash or make a Moitzi Lechem in Haaretz. And how this happened, I stopped asking long ago. Things happen. True story. So he wanted to know, but he really finished the bread part of it. Is there any tikkun? He ate without a bracha, without netilas yadayim. But also, he asked, if he eats more bread and he makes a moitzi on that, would that be masakin what he ate without a bracha? So I'm thankful to the Rebbeinu Shalom for that shayla because it started me on an absolutely delightful sugya. I could give you a money-back guarantee. Because really, this is really more negeya, which comes up, a person that puts foods in his mouth without a bracha. For example, he's about to see having dessert by a bread meal, where he's supposed to make a bracha, and he forgot. And that's much more common when a person puts a candy in his mouth and forgot to make a bracha. So now what? He has food in his mouth. What do? Spit out the food. Do you make a bracha? And the truth is, sometimes spitting out the food will waste the food. And that would be a question of Baltashchis. Baltashchis, the chinuch, in Tov Chav Tes, speaks very highly of the importance of Baltashchis. But basically he says you shouldn't waste even a gargush shel chardal, even a mustard seed. So spitting out the food is Baltashchis. But then again, eating without a bracha is unthinkable. Mar says in Brachas Lamed Hey, when it's asa to have a no from this world below bracha, and someone does, he's goyz like Kaddish Baruch Hu. And the Gemara gives him another smicha, so to speak. Chavahu leish mashchis. He becomes a partner to Yerav ben Nevat. So here we are, a question of priorities. Which is worse, eating without a bracha or baltashchis? Mishnah says in Reish Yud, Tzivkot and Gimel, even having hana kolshu without a bracha is awesome. So the question is priorities, and maybe we could find other eitzes. Maybe it's an eitzah. Listen to this: the food in his mouth, maybe mahara the bracha. Maybe he can't say the bracha when his mouth is full of food. Maybe he could think the bracha. Maybe he should swallow the food and make a bracha afterwards, because maybe the bracha goes backwards. I'll say, where do we find the bracha going backwards? That I could tell you. So imagine someone comes home, Chalamoid, and his wife says, supper is ready in a half hour. Go learn in the sukkah, and we'll start supper in a half hour. Okay, it's time to learn the sukkah, a treat. So both the Taz and Magen Avram, the end of Tov Reish Lamed Tes, both say, you can't make a bracha on learning. Leishiv, you don't make a bracha on Leishiv, but sukkah, for just learning. So what you do is, you go learn, then you make a Leishiv sukkah on the Suda, and that goes back retroactively to the learning in the sukkah. So maybe we'll find a new idea. You make a bracha, you swallow now, and you make a bracha right away. You want to be very frum? You make a bracha tochadei dibur after you swallow. Or maybe, what's the problem? Keep the food in your mouth, make a bracha with the food in your mouth. And this negeya, as we'll see in other shilas. For example, someone put food in his mouth during a tainus. Should he spit it out? Baltashchis, but then again, it's an isatainis. Or what's very common, you ate kalacha, you made the bracha, you benched. Afterwards, you found food in your mouth, strands of food. You have to spit it out. It's not nice to spit out food in front of other people. Can you swallow it? So Baruch Hashem, it's a delightful sugya, as we'll see, very much hands-on. And let's learn together a piece of Gemara in Bracha, in Nafnunim at Beis, and we'll see the whole sugya plus. Zog the Gemara, and I quote, Shachach, we'll soon point out what that means. He forgot, V'hichnis oichlin l'soich piv, below bracha. He put food in his mouth. Now typically, in Ilchus Bracha, there's no difference, eat a food or drink. He's a chayav, make a bracha and everything. The one difference we'll see is today's Gemara. The Gemara seems to stress, if you put food in your mouth, Misalek l'tzad echad u'mevarech. You move the food to one side of your mouth, and you make a bracha. Oh, so we see one of our eitzes. Don't spit it out. Don't make baltashchis. Keep the food in your mouth. Move it to one side, and make a bracha. Chayra, your yaitza, toiv l'briyas and toiv l'shamayim. Now, you wonder why it says oichel, we'll soon see. But l'chayr we see an eight of the Gemara that's called misalek. We'll use that word misalek. In fact, I saw in the Oirach Nem on Kuf Ayim Beis, Yif Cut and Zayin, he declares, okay, you'll put it in the side of your mouth. Which side? Right side or left side? I thought it was a technicality. He said, Pashtus, you make a bracha, you hold it in your right hand. Maybe put the food in your right side of your mouth. But then again, you're going to have to make a bracha. To make a bracha with the left side of your mouth? He says, you know what the best eight is? Whatever makes the best bracha. You don't know which side of your mouth is better. If you put the food on your left side, the right side of your mouth makes a good bracha, do that. But Rabbi say, if this is true, then we found the eitzah. All you have to do is move the food to one side of your mouth and make a bracha. However, the Gemara is not yet finished. The Gemara continues. Tanya Chada, we learned one, a brisa, that when you have food in your mouth, boilan. She says, boilan b'lei bracha. Wow. You're allowed to swallow without a bracha. Tanya Idach, a different brisa, poltan, which sounds to mean spit it out. So Rashi explains, not spit it into the garbage, spit it into your hand, of course when no one's looking, don't cause others discomfort, miyas. Spit it into your hand, make a bracha, and then put it back in your mouth. So we're learning a few words today, 3 words to be exact. Boilon means swallow it. Poltan means spit it out, expel it, and make a bracha and put it back. V'tanya idach misalkut. And we also saw, move it to the side of your mouth. Oh, that was the first Gemara. So, but now we see it's not just misalkan. It's misalkan, it's boilon, swallow it, and it's poltan, spit it out and put it back. For the Gemara, make up your mind. You can't have 3 eights. So the Gemara basically says, loy kasha, they're all true. It depends the situation. Ha the tanya boiling. When does it say boiling? You have to swallow it by a mashka. And it's very meduyik. If you remember, the case of Masalik was talking about oichel. Oh, so the difference is oichel and mashka. Mashka, for some reason you can't be Masalik it. So what do? Swallow it. Swallow it without a bracha. As in Gezela, Me'ila, Yeravim and Avot. What's pshat? So Rashi explains a few words. She'i efshel asalkin letzad echad melugmav ulevarech. Why? Obviously he put a mouthful of drink in his mouth, so you can't move it. You know, his mouth is bulging. So spit it out into the sink or the garbage. V'loy lepoltan shemafsidan. You're going to waste it. Spit it into the sink, you can't retrieve it. So Rashi is telling us that lemaisa, you can't spit it out because bal tashchis. The only eitzu would be, and you can't even make a bracha in your mouth because it's so full. The only, and to waste it, that's bal tashchis. Now Rashi doesn't say clearly, but that's what Rashi means. But we want to see the Riaz, one of the Rishonim say, vayashlichem mitoch piv lahafsidon. It's bal tashchis. Oh, so now you understand why the Gemara says, oichel misalkim, put in the side of your mouth. Mashke, you can't do that. Oh. Hoda Tanya Polta, what does Polta mean? So here the Gemara makes a distinction. Let's say you put a candy in your mouth without a bracha, and you chop right away. So, you don't swallow, that's for sure. Right? But you have a simple eitzah. Spit it into your hand, of course when no one's looking, make a bracha and put it back. It's not miyus, that's for you. But let's say you chewed up a piece of challah. You can't put it, it's miyus already, you can't put it back, you make a bracha, put it back in your mouth. So when something that's miyus, the eitzah is, put it on the side of your mouth. So okay, so that means you keep on telling me that you're allowed to put it on the side of your mouth when necessary. So frag the Gemara, why by the case of the candy, do you have to spit it out? Why mucha to spit it out, make a bracha and put it back? Put the candy on the side of your mouth and make a bracha then. And for the Gemara, Mishum Shenema Yemale Pis Hilosecha. And that we'll soon see that there's a chiyuv based on a pasuk in Tehillim. Fill your mouth with the praise of HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Your mouth should be empty and give it all you've got, full production of a bracha. If you have a candy in your mouth, it's not your mouth, it's your mouth and a candy. But let's say a food it's miyus, a chuda piece of challah, if you spit it out, you're not going to put it back. So what's the alternative? Put it in the garbage? Or bal tashchis. That you don't do. So Chazal said if you can't spit it out and put it back, you can keep it on the side of your mouth. Now, why taka are you allowed to make a bracha as such? Misalkan, so we'll soon see. It's not a ma'akiv. Yimal pitzech not ma'akiv. So here we see the beauty of the sugya. And let's start from the first halacha. Let's try to apply it. You filled your mouth with water. Let's think about water for a moment. You filled your mouth with a drink. Now your mouth is full. What do? So you can't make a bracha as it is. You can't spit it out. Swallow it. Now the question is, what do you swallow without a bracha? Bal tashchis? Bal tashchis is wasting for no reason. Let's say a person mistakenly bought a food that has a very questionable hechsher. So don't eat it. There's no bal tashchis to throw it out. You're not allowed to eat something, then don't eat it. In fact, there's a minhag we just had last night that we spill extra wine before I make Havdalah. That's siman bracha. Why is that bal tashchis? I'm not wasting it. I'm using it. I'm using it for a ruchnius purpose. So why don't we say fakert? To swallow out a bracha, unthinkable. Bal tashchis, not bal tashchis. Why do we say better swallow than spit it out? So this is a big kasha. Reb Shlomo Zalman in Sulchan Shloima in Chelik Aleph, Amud Shin Pei Aleph, that's Sulchan Shabbos, but it's negeh for that was sugya. He says a beautiful yisoid. Lo yaleinu, a person's an oinen is not mechuyev in any mitzvahs. He eats without a bracha. He doesn't bench. Imagine you have a strange oinen, okay, but I just want to bring out a point. And he says, oh, taka, still before the kfur, I'm allowed to eat, I'm no chai bracha. He said, I always wanted to taste a cheeseburger. Let me go to McDonald's and have a cheeseburger before the levaya. So this is not normal. But why not? I thought you say he's potter from mitzvahs. That's chas v'shalom. He's not a guy, he's not potter from mitzvahs. What's he potter from? Mitzvahs, I say. He can't do isurim. So he could taka, eat without a bracha and doesn't bench. But the kasha is, besides the mitzvah to make a bracha, there's an issa achila b'loi bracha. So how could he eat without a bracha? The mitzvah, we overlook the mitzvah. What about the issa achila b'loi bracha? Says Reb Shlomo Zalman, a beautiful yisoid. Because the same kasha could ask, how could Chazal tell a suffix brachas lahakol? Eat without a bracha. What about suffix issa of gezela, of me'ila? So Reb Shlomo Zalman kamat the kasha that a kasha. Because the issa of eating without a bracha is a product of the mitzvah of making a bracha. You have a chiyah bracha. If a person doesn't, so it's me'ila and gezela. But let's say Chazal say because he's an oinen, or because suffix brachas lahakol, he's not chayiv in a bracha, then there's no issa of eating without a bracha. So the bracha is a byproduct, the issa is the byproduct of the mitzvah. No mitzvah, no issa. He does add, but it's not a hefgevelt. He's an interesting marshal because he wants to make a point. Let's say drink spilled out on a table, whatever it is. And basically, if he doesn't quickly drink it, he'll get wasted. Can he quickly chop it without a bracha because of bal tashchis? Rather not. Why not? Because you didn't make bal tashchis, so it got spilled out, leave it. But the question is, if to make bal tashchis and spill it into the sink, then we'll say, the Chazal never mechayiv to make a bracha in that case, drink is unto hate, and no bracha. So Reb Shlomo Zalman is extending that to our case as well. You put food in your mouth, drink, mouth is full. You can't make a bracha, you can't spit it out. So Chazal says, let's freeze. What should you do? Spit it out, bal tashchis. In such a case, there's no chiyah bracha. Swallow it, and eskazun tehait. So this is Reb Shlomo Zalman's understanding in Rashi, that Rashi understood that the spit it out is bal tashchis, and that's non-option. Now the truth is, it's a beautiful hezbollah, but there's still a makam l'chalik. Why do you say Chazal said swallow it and because of bal tashchis? I'll say fakert. Bal tashchis, it's not bal tashchis. Don't drink without a bracha. So Lamaisa, that's probably prompted the Rabbeinu Chanano, the Rosh and Bracha Zayin Megimel, and the Rashba and Taka Bracha Tafnun and Beis quote this Rabbeinu Chanano, a big yisoid, and he says also a little of a chiddush. but it makes it much easier to understand. Let's freeze the situation. You have a person that has water in his mouth. Well, not water, water we'll talk about soon. He has drink in his mouth, soda. So, is he really chayav to make a bracha on that soda right now? Because let's say he spits it out and walks down 16th Avenue. Who wants to buy soda? It has no value, there's no retail value. Zok Beinu Chananel, the drink in his mouth is itchu mitayras mashkin, and therefore it's valueless. There's no bracha on valueless drink. Now, of course, you'll say, what do you mean? But for me, it's fully valuable. I can't sell it, but for me, it's worth it. So that's why you look in the Lashon of the Rosh and the Raj, where they quote Ben Chananel, it's not ru'uyim l'chol adam. We look at the value, what it's worth to other people. And if you want to hear a beautiful Haisafa, the Chachma Shloima, this Reb Shloima Kluger, on the page in Shulchan Aruch, he take a kasha. Mamash our kasha. What do you mean? It's not worth it. For you, it's worthwhile. And the emphasis in Hilchas Tumah, it's still Makabel Tumah. So he says, true. Hilchas Tumah, we look at what's worth to you. In Hilchas Bracha, what's the reason for Chiyuv Bracha? Gezela. Gezela, there's a tour of Zenena V'zel Leichasa. Hear what he says? He says, if you spit it out, no one has a no. If you drink it, you have a no. So really, it's really valueless because it's a Zenena V'zel Leichasa. So Chazal said it's not chasat because if you spill it out, no one will have a no. You're allowed to drink it without a bracha. So we have two pshatim in the Rishonim, why it's mutter to swallow the mashke b'loi bracha, either bal tashchis, or it's valueless and no chiyuv bracha. But says the Rosh, after he quotes Ben Chananel, there's something wrong with this whole mahalach. Because the Gemara seems to say in every case, you're going to make a bracha somehow. If you spit it out, you'll put it back. We'll soon see the case of Masalkon, you make a bracha. How could you learn that boilon is drink without a bracha? Zok the Rosh, a novel approach. You know what you're going to do? You'll swallow the mashka and make a bracha afterwards. Zok the Rosh, why? Why not? This way you're not goyes like Kaddish Baruch Hu. Now, but the plea is, if you learn that Gemara and Brachas, the next piece, Daf Nun Aleph, the Gemara says, a machloikis amarayim. If someone finished eating, didn't bench yet, finished eating, and he woke up, I had to make a bracha. So Ravina says, well, it's never too late, make a bracha, Rishayna, and it goes backwards. But we don't pass like Ravina. There's no bracha retroactively. So the Rosh is saying, drink it, and make a bracha afterwards, it's connected to Gemara. Yeah. But the Rosh didn't forget the Gemara. If you look at the Rosh, he says again a novel approach. If you finished eating and you wake up, right? So now, good morning, but it's too late. But if you put food in your mouth and before you swallowed, you remembered you didn't say a bracha, so the lashon of the Rosh is that's a little bit of oivel asiyasan, and the bracha is chal, but you can't make a bracha as it is. Swallow it and make a bracha. So when does the Gemara say you can't make a bracha? After you finished eating. Now it's too late. But if you remember when the food's in your mouth, that's the bracha's chal. In fact, the halachas ketanois in Chelik Beis, Simon Tzadik says, if you remember to make the bracha, ki'ilu hischol levarech dami. Beautiful. And that's oivel asiyasan. But the chiddush still needs a hezbollah. Because as I told you earlier, it's true. If a person sits in the sukkah and learns for half hour and then makes a leishav on the meal, it goes backwards. Because the yisoid of bracha on a mitzvah is that every mitzvah should have a bracha. So it goes backwards. But if the issa of making a chiyuv, making a bracha, is an issa of gezela me'ila hana b'lai bracha, so what does it help the bracha was chal? You swallowed the bracha, full hana, no bracha. You wake up afterwards? Well, how did that work? And you look at the Shach and Yeredeya, Yud Tes Gimel, he quotes in Ar Zarua that there's a fundamental difference between Berchas Hanenin and Berchas HaMitzvah. Berchas HaMitzvah is on the mitzvah and it goes backwards, but not Berchas Hanenin. So therefore the Rosh's Pshat has a Shverkeit. But before we apply this more specifically, I want to tell you one more Yisoid, that's the Ravid. The Rambam in Hilchas Brachas Perek Ches Halach Yud Beis says basically passing like the Rebbeinu Chananel. You're allowed to swallow the liquid,
because it's valueless. Zok derived, okay, fine. But that's only if you have nothing else to drink but what's in your mouth. But if you have other drinks, and I quote the Ravid, Ma chasorin yesh b'molei piv mashkim im yoivdu. If you waste it. V'lo yehenemem b'loi bracha. If you have other drinks, spit this out and start again. When you have nothing else to drink, which today is almost rare, then you're allowed to drink it. In other words, he's saying there is an element of baltashchis, but it can't be out of control. If you have nothing else but what's in your mouth, chazal matir. If you have other drinks, spit it out, and baltashchis is not justifiable. So this is what we'll soon see most poskim accept. And the emphasis in our society, I'm not saying it's right, but how much waste goes on by every meal, every simcha. So, he's making a Kaddish, $500 worth of food's going in the garbage, but he's worrying about drinking, spitting out a little bit, drink in his mouth. He's inspired with bracha. So, Lamaisa, let's see how we paskin and apply this Lamaisa. So, we're going to read the Shulchan Aruch, and what they say in America, savor the flavor. In Kuf Ayin Beis Sif, I've got the Mechaber devotes a whole sim in Kuf Ayin Beis for our sugya. Shochach v'hichnis mashkin l'seich pibulei bracha boilon ve'einem mevarach aleim bracha rishayna. The Mechaber is going like Rashi or the Rebbeinu Chananel, as the Beragoyla says, and he's paskening, you're allowed to drink b'lei bracha. The Taz, Magen Avram, say he's going be'ikah with the Rebbeinu Chananel, that it's valueless. The Ramah, v'yesh oimim, the mevarach aleim, you make a bracha after you drink, v'chein ikar. The Ramah is going with the rush, that you could first swallow and then make a bracha. However, the Pella is that the Mishnah Berurah is quick to add that das roiva poiskim kedei rishayna, not like the Ramah, which is not typically the case. Usually Bnei Ashkenaz go with the Ramah, but here the Mishnah Berurah quotes, look in the Sharatzi, a long list of poiskin, we cannot go with the rush. Apparently a bracha does not work retroactively. And that's why the halacha will be that you will swallow it, and then, like we said, either there's no chiyah bracha or bal tashchis is doicha. But I must add, the Magen Avram does say, don't forget the Ravid. The Ravid says, bal tashchis is a factor only if nothing else to drink. But if you have other things, spit it out, again, when it doesn't cause anybody distress, and start again. Now let's apply this more specifically, see how much we can get from this simple Hagdama. First of all, I think, as you see, when a person takes food in his mouth, it's quite complicated. Achila, shtiya, other things. That's why it's much easier to remember to make a bracha. It's, avoids a lot of, questions. And I should mention what the Sifri, tied to the pasuk in Kisavai, V'matri Hashem olekecha, lo yavarti mitzvaysecha v'lo shachachti. Lo shachachti means lo shachachti mi levarich. God, that's going a different bracha, but a person has to live with this attitude. Don't forget to make a bracha. Okay. If he forgot and he put food in his mouth, so mashka, as we said, you can't spit it out. So then we'll see, you're allowed to swallow it. Oichel, food in your mouth. So if it's a candy or the like, you're supposed to spit it out and make a bracha. Now, if the food that you chewed is going to be miyas for you to eat, then you put it to the side of your mouth and make a bracha with the food in your mouth. Rav Shlomo Zalman is quoted as saying, but let's say you have a candy, and it's not miyas to spit it out, but you're sitting with other people, and it's very, uncomfortable to watch someone spit out food. So he says, with ein grosser, sensitivity to B'nadam Chaveri, that's also a het of miyas. Miyas not just for you, because it's someone else. And I would add, that's a Gemara. The Gemara says, a Chagiga Daf Hey, teaching the pasuk in Kehos Rabbi Yochanan, would cry about this pasuk. Ki has kol ma'isa ha'olikim yavev mishpat al kol ne'alam. There's a din the Cheshvan on what a person doesn't even realize. And what are the examples? So the Gemara, harak b'fnei chavera, he spits in front of his friend. And Rashi says, v'chavera nimes ktsas das chavera. A little discomfort is already, he gives it in the Cheshvan. So, you're spitting it out to be frum, but maybe more frum is to worry about someone else. Someone told Rabbi Shlomo Zalman was once makel, a certain child. So the person said, the Rashiva meant the fifth chelik in Shulchan Aruch. He goes, nein, that's the erste chelik in Shulchan Aruch. Someone's feeling is the erste chelik. I heard this from an Edom, Shagafayvel Mendelowitz. Seif Yama, who's very ill, he needed a lot of help, but he never let anybody take out his dentures. He felt that they'll be uncomfortable, so he took care of his dentures on his own. That's kol ne'elam. Okay. Next question, which might be a chiddush. Let's go back to our forgetful fellow that already ate the entire bread meal without a bracha. But he'll eat more if it helps. Does it help to make a moitzi now and eat more bread? Of course, wash, make a moitzi. So the emes of the levush in Kuf Samach Zayin Siv Ches says we pass like Ravina. We don't pass like Ravina. You can make a bracha retroactively, and he says Mu'uvis la yuchal liskoin, and it doesn't help. However, Re'ez Apella, the Magen Avram, Kuf Samach Zayin on that Siv Ches, and the Mishtabura, and many nice kalim on the levush, the Madan Yom Tov, the El Yerabah, El Yazuta, all say that we can't forget when you learn the sugya, there are shitas in Rishonim, the Ravid and the Rosh, you'll see when you look at Be'in, that they all say that a bracha could help retroactively. So the Mishtabura with the Sharatzian says if someone ate and feels bad about it, so even though he decided to stop eating, it would be an eitzah to make a bracha on new food and light some shitas, only the Ravid and the Rosh, but Lamais, it's something, it's better than nothing. Now I say it's better than nothing because no one should think, oh, so it's a good eitzah. It's not a good eitzah. But Lamais, it's an achama if someone ate without a bracha. So Loimi Boy, if he's going to eat more, make a bracha and have a mind backwards. But even if he's not planning on eating, I saw the Arletzian says this Lamaisa in Memvav Yud Beis, if someone ate without a bracha, it is worthwhile, although it's just an achama ba'alma, to make a bracha and let it go backwards. If you're looking for an achama, I'll tell you a bigger chiddush. Saw this in Rav Moshe Matkakap Seif in L'chas Yoim B'Yoim Chelik Gimel Amashin Tzadik Gimel. He points out that the Rambam says mashkin that you have in your mouth boilan umavarach aleim lebesoif. What's that mean lebesoif? Bracha Achorona. So for the Hilchas Yoim, what's the chiddush? If you don't make a bracha Rishayna, okay, so yachzav v'yochel shum. But why don't I make a bracha Achorona? What's the Rambam saying? So he says a chiddush gadol. He says I found the Pnei Yeshua. I couldn't find the Pnei Yeshua that he mentions, but he says could be the issa of nana b'loy bracha is without a bracha at all. If you didn't make a bracha Rishayna, we made a bracha Achorona, it's also okay. Again, I couldn't find the Pnei Yeshua. He says lamavav and brachis, but he quotes Rav Moshe in the Dibrais that Taka says that. B'di'eved, maybe it's a chama that you make a good bracha Achorona. Okay. Now I'm going to ask you a beautiful shayla. Someone comes over to you and says, I heard you learned the sugya about hichnis piv b'loy bracha. I have a shayla, ongoing shayla. If you notice, I have on my left side of my mouth, I have a little bit drink, soda. What do? It's not my whole mouth. I remember that drinks, you spit it out. Or you swallow it. But it's only a little bit. You see, I'm talking to you. I could talk. What do? Well, you learned the sugya. What would you say? You'll say, oh, you're right. Because the Gemara says, boilan b'mashkin. But wait a second, it makes no sense. Why is boilan b'mashkin, Zok Rashi? Because you can't make a bracha. Here, you have an eitzah. In fact, you're talking beautifully to make a bracha. But the problem is, according to Beinu Chananel, the drink in your mouth is valueless. There's no chiyah bracha. So you're making a bracha when there's no chiyah bracha? So what do? So the Levushei Srod on the page, he has this very shayla, and he says, I would think you should make a bracha, because you could. But what about the Beinu Chananel shita that you don't make a bracha on this type of water, on drink? And he's not very decisive. But Zoktim Ishtaburas Yivkot and Aleph, this shayla, and the Sharatzin explains, I believe, no suffix, make a bracha. Beinu Chananel is not going to be a kula in this case. We don't let Rabbeinu Chananel be a kula. What do you want to do? Use Rabbeinu Chananel and drink without a bracha? No. Assume that it's worth something for himself. It has a value. Make a bracha for that alone and swallow it. But now I want to ask you a question. The Gemara didn't find this ha'or. The Gemara, and that we paskin, that's halacha l'maisa. A mouthful of drink, of soda, what do? You can't spit it out, you can't make a bracha, swallow it. Why don't you do a practical eitzah? Swallow half of it, keep half, and make a bracha on the other half. The other half you could manage, If it's full the way it is, so you get all intimidated. Okay, drink part of it, keep part of it, and make a bracha on the other part. So I was thinking, well, what do you gain? Because really, the issa is to swallow drink. Either you're going to swallow half or swallow the whole thing. So what are you gaining by keeping half? You're going to make a bracha on that half? But according to Ben Chanano, there's no chiyuv bracha. But the emes is not mistavra. It's not a din in B'liya, it's hana. If you could cut the hana b'lei bracha in half, drink half and keep half, I would think it makes more sense. Ayah Ben Chanano. So, but that, the Mishnah Sharatzin says, you don't use that lakula. I Taka found the Rav Scheinberg in the Chedushay Basra on this siman. Taka says this eitzah. So it's a pretty good eitzah. I wonder why no one else said it. In other words, what you're doing is you're creating a situation of bracha on mashke that according to Ben Chanal and Yapata. But why not? So, b'tzarechiyim. Okay. Question, which the grad someone asked and it good gefrekt. There's no option in the Gemara when your mouth is bulging with drink. Why not spit it into a cup, make a bracha, and then drink it? The Torah says that's miyas for the person. So that's pashut. So that's why the Gemara didn't say it. It's pashut. Okay, fine. Now, question. Someone mistakenly put food in his mouth on a tainus. Now, the question is, let's assume for somehow he had a bracha. But he put food in his mouth. What do you do on a tainus? So you'll say, well, we just learned that sugya. To spit it out is bal tashchis. But that's wrong. Chas v'shalom, that's wrong. Because even like Rashi, bal tashchis, that only works about swallowing without a bracha. Because then we have the svara of Shlomo Zalman that that since there's bal tashchis, there's no chiyuv bracha. But Rabbi Yid, you're in the middle of a tainus. It's a tainus. Put food in your mouth doesn't make it always tainus. So to do an issa on a tainus, even a drop of eating is an assist b'kum v'asei, spit it out. The only question is if he made a bracha and then put it out and then realized what he had done, maybe you'll say, well, what's the lesser of two evils? Swallowing a drop, I'm eating. Bracha she'ein tzricha is worse. So the person will say, you know what? Believe it or not, don't eat. Because you made the bracha already. But if you're going to swallow, you're doing a issa b'kum v'asei. The way you're doing is you're cutting your losses. So it's better to have a bracha, whatever bracha of atola, than to have a drop of food. But definitely, it's not a din in kol terakula. Once you have it in your mouth, bal tashchis. It's only when we could say there's no chiyuv bracha in the first place. Question: I kept on pointing out. We're talking about drinks. Now let's talk about water. Someone which typically happens. Person in a rush. He goes over to the water fountain and he drinks first, and you gotta make a bracha. Now his mouth is full of water. What's the halacha? So you're probably wondering, what's the shayla? We discussed that. We said it very clearly. Mouth full of water, boilan, bal tashchis. The question is there bal tashchis by water? Why not? Well, water basically is free, and it's readily available. And we find other halachas that water doesn't have a shem mashke. For example, the halacha is a person drinks water to take a pill, you don't make a bracha. Hanoida min ha'oichel, l'gabi nedarim, then mayim melech is okay. And probably that's why the Marsham and the Tshuva in Chei Gimel, Siman Shin Ayin Hey, feels that there is no issa baltashch. Don't forget, baltashchis, like many Rishonim, is the raisa by wasting any food, lav dafka cutting down a fruit tree. Zok the Marsham, there is no baltashchis by water. Other mashkiyeh, but not water. And, good. But I once heard a svar, I don't know who says it, it's debatable, but I once heard this svar, that other foods that you waste are wasted. You throw a cheese into the garbage, it's gone. Water, they spill on the ground, what happens? So the sun evaporates and it comes back raining. You spit it out last week and it's raining tomorrow. Oh, here it is. But Lamaisa, that's hard to understand because Lamahu said it goes back. You throw somebody's in a plate that it doesn't. But Lamaisa, I must tell you, especially for Daf Yomi Yidin, that the Hanocha of the Masham, the Chayr is connected to Gemara. 3 places in Masechti Yavamis, where the Gemara says, Yishbach Oda Mei Boiroi, L'Chayrim Tzvichim Lai. Mei Boiroi as in water. Now, if Adar Masham knew that Gemara, but probably he's talking about a case when the water had more value. So, if you have to pay for water, seltzer or spring water, there is a Baltashchis. But the mice, we have to say the following. It's not so pashut that there's Baltashchis by water. But besides that, don't forget, even if we hold there is Baltashchis by water, we have the Ravid. The Ravid says that we don't swallow water without a bracha unless no other water. So if someone put water in his mouth by a water fountain, la halacha, spit it out when no one's looking, make a bracha and start again. Okay, let me tell you an interesting story that's going to bring us to another delightful part of the sugya. Someone was near his father who wasn't feeling well, I don't know why, but he decided to rise kriya. He thought maybe his father died already, but his father was alive. But after the kriya, his father died, understandably, because he saw kriya. I don't know if I said that, but this is a Mechaben Yeridea, Shin Mem Siv Chafei, based on the Gemara Nadam, Rabbi say. And the Gemara and the Mechaber says, believe it or not, as bizarre as a mitzvah it is, if he rise kriya with the bracha, and the father died toich kedei dibur of the kriya, he was yaitz of the kriya. Again, you have to have the timing, but the father was fainted, he rise kriya with the bracha, and the father died right toich kedei dibur of the kriya, he's yaitz the kriya with the bracha. What do we see from this? The overwhelming koyach of toich kedei dibur. It connects an action that you did, and then the chiyuv, because it's a bonding force. Let's talk about a more lebedik commercial. Someone said in the Seres Mechuva, Hakel HaKaddish, and toich kedei dibur HaMelech HaKaddish. Fine. Oh. So now I'm going to ask you a very intriguing question. Let's talk about the worst scenario. You have mashka, expensive mashka, you have nothing else with that mashka in your mouth. Your mouth is full. You can't make a bracha as it is. It's baltashchas to spit it out, and you have nothing else. So you're qualified, boil like the Gemara says. Why don't we do the most simple eitzah that we could do by all foods and drink? Swallow it, and toich kedei dibur make a bracha. If it works for kriya and for kela kaddish, why doesn't it work for a bracha? And that would solve oichel hamashka bevasachas. However, as Reb Akiva Eiger on the page points out, from the Shulchan Aruch and the Gemara that could have thought of this and didn't. The Shulchan Aruch does not speak about electricity, but toich kedei dibur is not a modern invention. They had toich kedei dibur in those days. Why don't we say this eitz? That would solve all the problems. So Reb Akiva Eiger just sends you to Reish Chav Zayin Gimel. This is Ayin Sham. So Reb Akiva Eiger haste Daf Matan. There it says if someone heard lightning, or heard thunder actually, or saw lightning in the bathroom, and he can run out toich kedei dibur, he makes a bracha. Shkoyach, that just making the question bigger. So it works. What about for us? More so, the Shari Tshuva. For Reb Akiva Eiger, the Shari Tshuva quotes, in Reish Vav Gimel, quotes the Tfu Ashar, Bechor Ashar, that Mamish says this Yisoid, that it seems that we don't use the eights of toich kedei dibur in our Shaila. And the question is, why not? Akiva Eiger seems to say it's not an eight, so why not? So the only teretz has to be that toich kedei dibur has an unusual power to connect things. A person writes kriya, and then the p'tira toich kedei dibur connects. Hakel HaKaddish, it could replace something. You said Hakel HaKaddish, okay, don't worry. HaMelech HaKaddish, toich kedei dibur. But here, you want to do the impossible. He swallowed the food b'loi bracha. He had a full anah b'loi bracha. That's gezeilah, that's me'ilah. How will the bracha toich kedei dibur? It does go backwards, but it doesn't take away the me'ilah. That's what I think. Otherwise, you have a better hezbollah tell me. But we give an Eiger and the Tfu Ashar seems to say it's not a good eitzah. Now, I would have thought, why not? If it's a connecting force, it helps for the hana. But the Maisa, it's not done, it's not said. If you have better teretz, please tell me later. But let's move on to another pretty simple eitzah. Let's talk about the best scenario. We has a hetagama to swallow the food. Mashka in his mouth, full mouth, nothing else to drink. Boilan is great. Why do that? Why not do what the Shulchan Aruch writes in a few places? And that is what's called hirur. Typically, we paskin hirur lav kadiba. That's in Samach Beis Gimel, Kuf Aleph Beis, Kuf Behei Aleph, 3 places Shulchan Aruch. Here is Lav Kadiba. To be Yaitze Krishma Bracha is benching, you have to verbalize the words. But the Shulchan Aruch in Samach Beis Siv Dalid, Chaba and Ramah says, let's say someone is Nebuch Einis or a Chayla and cannot talk. Over the years, I had 3 different such shaylas. Someone Nebuch had Menimachla and couldn't talk. Someone had polyps on the throat and they either surgery or not talk for a few weeks that was supposed to heal the polyps. Or we had a shayla where someone had a terrible stutter. Interesting, I never knew this existed. But if he doesn't talk for a few weeks and starts to talk, retrain himself to talk, that type of therapy could take away the stutter. Don't ask me if it works, how it works, but people that cannot talk for a few weeks. So it's good for Shalom Bayis, maybe for the Shmiras HaLashon. What do you do about benching and davening and Krishma and everything? So Avada Shemei Koina works. But what do you do from Irish? Shemei Koina what? A person thirsty at 3 o'clock in the morning, you can wake up his family to make a bracha. So the Rash Mechaber Amor and Samach Beis Dalet says, if you have Choyli or Oinis, be Mahara the bracha, or Krishma, whatever it is. Now, this is a tremendous chiddush that we see when there's no other choice. Hirer Kadibur, and that's the sheet of the Rambam. Hirer Kadibur. Zok the Derech HaChaim. That's the Nesivus in Siman Reish Shei in a Sefer and Halacha. If there's no other choice, no other mashkin, be mahar the bracha. The Ben Ish Chai, Matis Daled, Kseis HaShulchan and Hei Gimel Kaf HaChaim Sivkat and Aleph and Rekiv Ega and Kufay Daled regarding Sofer Brachas LaHakol. Quotes the Ginas V'Radim that says the same Eitzah. Whenever you have a problem with the bracha, make here. However, I must tell you that this is not done. It's not quoted in Shulchan Aruch and Hilchos Brachas. Why not? So the emes is, imagine a person cannot talk, but he davens a Ma'ariv Behirah. Now, by the way, when I say Hirah, I don't mean think Ma'ariv. Press the Ma'ariv button and Yaitza. It's Mahara every single word. You have to think Baruch, Ato, Hashem, Mutka. It's pretty tedious. You have to think of each word. Let's say the person went through a Ma'ariv, he'd have Ma'ariv with Grois Kavana. After Ma'ariv, his voice came back. He saw the Koyach HaTfilah. Does he have to have Ma'ariv over again? Zokta Mishibura, 100%. Because really, you're not Yaitza with Hira, because Hira Laf Kadibur. But, like they say in America, it's better than nothing. Barshim is Yischar. But you're not Yaitza. That's Mishtabur and Samach Beis, Sivkot and Zayin. So now the question is, why much someone to do something not really Yaitza? Now the Derech HaChaim want to rely on the Rambam, that's fine. But the emes is, we have another reason that not the much yid. Because the food, the drink in his mouth now, like the Beinu Chananel, is not chayiv in a bracha. Right? So according to him, you can drink without a bracha. So you want to be Yaitza Shita, so give me a good Eitzah. But don't give me an Eitzah that's just a consolation prize to feel better. And Taka the Prima Godim, in our Simmons, he's cut and Beid Mishnah Zahav, he says, Koshali, why don't we say Hira Kadibur? In this case. So in Prima Godim, Sivkat and Aleph, Aish Lavram, he says, Loiter Beinu Chananel is good. Why? Because you're not gaining much. So to much eat for no reason, don't bother him. But the emes is, I think for us, oh, by the way, I should mention, but don't think that, and therefore don't much him, because maybe if Hira Kadibur, then you have a problem of Bracha Vatala. According to Beinu Chananel, there's no Chiyah Bracha, but you did it with a Hira, so it's a Bracha Vatala. No, it's not. In the worst scenario, if there's no Leisisa Shem Hashem, you didn't say the Shem Hashem, Hira could never be a Bracha Vatala. But I think for us, we have another unavoidable problem. Let's say the person decides to be from, and he doesn't, I don't mind, I'll be matriach, I'll be Hira, the whole bracha. Now he wants to have more of that food. Do you make a bracha now? You'll say, if I do, what I did till now was gunish vert. So why'd you do it? So you identify you're not doing anything. Teretz is the Rambam. Oh, so you can have a problem with the next bit of food. So honestly, either you're going to say it's nothing, or you're going to have a problem. So that's why you run into a problem about the next bit of food. If there's no other food, then, maybe there's someone that does it has a tzad, that is a good tzad to do that. We saw great paiskim, we saw the paiskim that say this, the Derech HaChaim, and others that say it. but I think it's not really required to do such an eitzah. Question, someone in a weak moment, bemazed, put food in his mouth out of bracha. Or drink, whatever it is, a cup of soda. Now he asks you, what do I do? He had the pintel yid, he decided to tshuva, he has food in his mouth, what do you do? So we're wondering, what's the shaila? We just learned the sugya. Zok the Ritva and Hilchas Brachas in the back of the Ritva and Hilchas Brachas Aleph Gimel. The Gemara says, Shachach v'hichnis oichel teich piv. Hazed, there's no heter. Now what does he mean? So you look at the word, you have to, Ritva is a reach, learn it carefully. He's saying two important sides. First of all, because he's amazed, Chazal didn't give him any kula. What do we mean? Because typically, Yimali piti lasecha. But if someone in trouble, you're allowed to make a bracha with food in your mouth. Masalik works. But Zokta B'tva, if he's amazed, we don't give him the heta. He has to spit out the food, even if it's wasted. V'oi Zokta B'tva, if he filled his mouth with mashke, typically you're allowed to swallow it, but not amazed. We don't make accommodation for amazed. He has to spit out the food and waste the mashke. Now you might ask me, waste the mashke, what about baltashchis? Terry says it's not really baltashchis. Because if he has no heter to drink it as it is, it's not baltashchis. So this is why it comes out a mardika thing. If the Gemara's word is so cherished. Here, shachach is only a case of, is the heter only by shachach. If you have taka a case of amazed, by amazed, there would be no heter at all, no accommodations to accommodate this mazid. Next question is interesting, and that is the halacha, the following question. A person did everything kedasa kedin. He's running very smoothly. He ate, made a bracha achrona, after he finished eating, he found strands of food, the crumbs or a piece of meat in his mouth. After benching. Now, to start spitting out, people sitting with people, spitting out is not nice. But then again, to swallow the chatchila, it's only a kol shehu, but there's an issa kol shehu. So here, we will say, poik chazim ayam adabar. You ever see a person taking out a strand and making a bracha? But the question is why? So to say it's bottle, like in Hilchas Shabbos it's bottle, is wrong. In Hilchas Shabbos, something is bottle. In Hilchas Hana, if you have Hana, you make a bracha. So maybe for us, we could use Rabbeinu Chanano. Because Rabbeinu Chanano says, drink in the mouth becomes nimas. Now, food typically doesn't. But I think if you have one crumb in your mouth that's been saturating in saliva, maybe that's nimas. Take it out, make a bracha. So maybe that's the reason, Pashit, that you swallow by bracha. Rabbeinu Chanano is talking about mashka. But a little bit of food that's been in the mouth with all that saliva is basically valueless. But the emes, the Paiskim do say another svar, pretty lumdish svar. I saw there's the Or Letzion and Memvav, Memches. He says that really, you made a bracha on this food. Right? The whole food, including this. Navas, you made a bracha achrona. So bracha achrona is a siluk. Once you made a bracha achrona, you can't eat. The biggest raya is, think about this. You make Kaddish Shabbos, Gofen, drank a lot of wine, finish the Suda, you're benching with a kais. You're not misalik yadas from that kais. You know you can drink the kais for benching. But when you drink the kais, you have to make another gofen? Avada, why? Because benching is a silik. So Zok De'aritzian, a bracha is a silik. But maybe food in your mouth that you already made a bracha on, and the bracha was chal already, the silik doesn't override the bracha. So Lamaisa, Baruch Hashem, you don't have to be, worried, especially people nerve and start worrying. Is there a crumb in the mouth? They're busy with that. So anything that you benched and you basically ate normally, we say you're allowed to continue, swallow, whatever it is, and certainly don't start taking things out of your mouth. Question, there are some people, I know Gedolim, that have this minig, that they, by Besamim, on Mitzvah Shabbos, they first smell the Besamim, then make the bracha and smell again. So someone's asked me, what are they doing? What about Asal Hanes B'lai Bracha? So you might think, well, maybe they use Rabbi Kiva Eiga, a Terch de Dibur, maybe it goes to Mafreya. I don't think that's the point. The point is that people are afraid either they can't smell properly, or the Besamim lost its smell. So basically, that's why they smell first. So it's a tzarich bracha, but not kavanas of hana. Now, I was tempted to add, maybe you also have a better heta, and that's called te'ima. You're allowed to taste food, it's a very Gemara, and like the Rambam even swallow the food because you're only making te'ima. So maybe the besamim is a form of te'ima. But the emes is a big makom l'chalik. Te'ima means it's not a mais achila, you're eating a little bit, either spitting it out or not spitting it out, but you're eating a little bit. Here, the smelling is a full smelling. It's not a te'ima, it's not a reduced smelling. So I think I saw one of the poskim say that there's no te'ima by besamim, because it's a full hana. So maybe we'll go back to our original teres, like I said. And now the last group of questions is what the Gemara says, and that is the concept with the Gemara Esakasha. If you're allowed to make a bracha with a candy in your mouth, with chewed up chal in your mouth, so why you have to spit out the candy, which is true is not miyas? Make the bracha with the candy in your mouth. And for the Gemara, Mishum Shanema Yamale Piti Losecha, which is basically a pasuk in Tehillim that a person has to have a mouth full of praise. Now, obviously, the message is if your mouth has to be empty and full of praise, your head, your mind, the hearts, the moyach, the leiv has to be fully involved in a bracha, a very beautiful approach to Hilchas brachas. Fine. The Mechaber in Kufay and Beis, Siv Beis, does not spell this out, but he says at times you have to spit it out, zok the taz, because yimale piti lasecha. Now the question is, so if it's yimale piti lasecha, so how can you make a bracha when you have chewed up challah in your mouth? True, it's miyos, but what's the heta? The Teres of the Pima Godim and the Arkashochan and Sif Aleph, that lemaisa yimale piti lasecha is not ma'akiv. It's a hiddur. So if you could do it, do it. A candy, you could do it. Chewed up challah is miyos. Then you keep it on the side and override Yamal Piti Lasech. If you think about it, there are really two concerns when there's something in your mouth. The most obvious, and that the Mishnah quote in Sivkot and Zayin quotes the Eshkol, if you have a lot of food in your mouth, it's going to disturb your speech. It's going to come out slurred. A person has food in his mouth and he's talking, you hear it, it's not coherent. So it's a chasar in the bracha. But more often than not, you could say the bracha. But it's just a lack of covet for the bracha. Your mouth has to be fully functional. Your mind, your heart, your mouth, totally involved in the bracha. And that's why it's pashut. Even if it doesn't affect the speech, but ideally the mouth should be empty. So to give you a simple mashal, someone is sucking a candy and he wants to make a bracha on a different food. And he could juggle it too. He could keep the candy inside of his mouth and make a mazaynis on a piece of cake. But that's wrong. Because Yimal Piti Lasecha. It's not going to disturb the pronunciation of the bracha. Doesn't make a chilik. Now, we said it's only mut to the misalik when there's no other choice. Question. Let's say a person put food in his mouth, and if he spits it out, it's miyus. Chew it up challah. But Baruch Hashem, he has plenty of other challah. What should he do? Should he make the bracha with a little bit challah on the side of his mouth, and masalik, make the bracha? Or we had the Ravid. The Ravid says, if you have other food, don't rely on kulas. You have a drink, spit it out. Do we say the same when it comes to Yimale Piti Lasecha? That when can you make a bracha with food in your mouth? You have nothing else. But if you have food, you have the Ravid. So the emes, if you look at the Ravid was only talking about, when he said you have to have, if there's no other food, about swallowing without a bracha. He does not say regarding Yimale Piti Lasecha. And the svar is gar pashut. Because if the question is a question of bal tashchis, then we say bal tashchis is a serious issa, but l'maisok derivid, when you have other foods, even bal spit it out. Yimale Piti Lasecha is not you're going to eat it without a bracha, like the case of the mashka. What are you going to do in the worst scenario? You keep the food on the side of your mouth and make a bracha in your mouth. That's not as bad as drinking without a bracha. And that's why it's muchach from the Ravid, the Magen Giborim, and Al Simon points this out, that if you have a situation that you could spit it out, and it'll be miyas, and it'll go in the garbage, don't do that. Better make a bracha with the food in your mouth, because lemaisa, you're making bal tashchis only for a maila of Yimale Piti Lasecha. That's not a right priority. And I think the biggest raya we spoke about this earlier, if a person has mashke in his mouth, a little bit, which the Torah says, make a bracha with the mashke in your mouth. I spit it out, derive it. There it's no. We don't varf sich with food. Bal tashchis is serious. If the question is eating without a bracha, then bal tashchis is not a mandama. But the question is ma'ale pita secha versus bal tashchis, then it's only a hiddur and overlook the hiddur. Question. There's a minig, I say that with big quotation marks, that women are afraid to put down their ring when they wash til shadayim, so they keep it in their mouths, and they juggle their ring when they make til shadayim. And then you see the chesar in malapiti lasecha. Now that's wrong. So the women should find a place to keep the rings. We always keep it. I know if it gets lost, it's a big ordeal. So keep it in a set place. And I should mention, so the Piskei Teshuvos points this out, and he's right, of course, that really you could keep the ring in your mouth, fine. After you finish washing, put the ring back on and make a bracha with an empty mouth. Because if you wash with a revius, then one hand can touch the other. If you wash without a revius, then you can't touch one hand to the other. But you could wash with the ring in your mouth, put the ring back on if you wash with a revius, and make the bracha yamal piti lasech. If you think we have funny minhagim, the Chai Adam in Hey Chaf Hey, he says if you have to keep, I don't know the hechatimsa, but when you're putting on tefillin, you have to keep the sleeve in your mouth so it doesn't fall back on your hand. Don't make a bracha with the sleeve of your shirt in your mouth. I don't know exactly what kind of people they were in those days, but you see that it disturbs the speech. But what's interesting is he says, and also if you have spit in your mouth, spit out before you make a bracha. But he's not telling you that before you make a bracha, you have to remove all saliva. There's no halach, you have to have a blow dryer to clean your mouth from saliva. He's saying if there's an accumulation, that taka sometimes is hard to make a bracha as it is. Now, he doesn't say this before, but I did see the Buchacha in Kufay and Beis, and Our Simon says this beferish. He says if you have a little bit of spit in your mouth, even though maybe in Hilchos Shabbos it's considered haitzah, but regarding the malapita lasecha, it's negligible. Don't worry about it. Unless you have a big accumulation, and if the speech comes out slurred, then you have to spit it out before the bracha. So we see it's basically that saliva is part of our mouths, and that's part of malapita lasecha. If there's a lot of it, and it comes out a little, again, distorted, then enechanami. Now why do I say this? Because there's an unavoidable problem. A person makes a mezainis on a piece of cake, then he wants to make a shakel on schnapps, soda, or coffee. Now, unless you work very hard, there's probably some crumbs, especially if it's a crumby type of cake, left in your mouth. So the question is, do we have to really check with a flashlight and make bedikas chametz that every last crumb was consumed? So probably this is like a normal amount of saliva. It doesn't disturb the speech for sure. But now candy you could take out of your mouth. I did see the Shineva is quoted a number of places that his minig was, because of this problem, he first made a shakel on the drink and then a mezainis on the cake. If that's your minig, wonderful. If it's not your minig and you want to follow the hilchos brachas of mezainis and then shahakol, swallow as much as you can, and you're not a malach, whatever's there is part of the mouth. You have to empty your mouth, but that's part of your mouth. It's a little worse than saliva, but I understand that there's yesham ilismach, certainly. Rav Moshe Mordechai would report that Rabbi Yashiv, when he ate nuts and cake, would be very careful to clean his mouth out from any remnants before he made another bracha. Grad, I should mention the halacha of Yimale Pi is bracha achrein as well. So before you bench or make an alamichya, so make sure your mouth is full of enough, is empty from food, and then you won't have the problem of that we said earlier of finding food in your mouth. In yeshiva, the bachrim have the new type of, it's called invisalign. It's not braces, but it's more convenient braces. You have to remove that before you make a bracha. So the truth is, the question is about a bite plate. I told the bachrim, at least you're not asking about dentures. But dentures, rather, is an easier shayla. Because dentures really, in a certain sense, take it out. But then again, dentures not only impede the speech, but helps the speech. So all the poskim say, that's part of your mouth. Forget, if you don't have dentures, the speech comes out unclear. So that's easy. A bite plate, lamaisa, it's not worn all the time, and it should be removed, because sometimes it does affect the clarity of the speech. Invisalign, they try not to take it out, but you can't eat with the invisalign in your mouth. Invisalign is an interesting type of braces. But the question is, often they drink, and you could drink with Invisalign, and it's a big job to take it out. So I told them, if you're sitting with other people, certainly don't take it out. It's not pleasant when you see someone taking out Invisalign. It's just not. It's cause a little bit of mius. But I think we could say that Invisalign, since it's supposed to be kept in the mouth, just you can eat with it. So if you want to just drink, so drink with it. If you want to eat, so take it out. You have to take it anyhow. And the last question is, when today common quite often of a shayla, a person sitting in shul, but he finished davening. He's eating from a l'chaim or from a tikkun, and the other minyan is davening. And they're saying, Yesh Rabba. Does the din of Malapita Lasecha apply to Shevach? That's not a bracha. Is it only a din in bracha? So the emphasis, I saw one of the Heintige Paiskim quotes the Bechacha, does not apply to Dvarim Shebekadusha. And if I looked it up, I think he made a mistake. The Bechacha says that you should actually zor b'shas atfilu brachos, but let's say b'shas nechitza to answer Dvarim Shebekadusha near the enkapeda gamkein kshein a pilot ma'ich shebepiv v'divei chazal kishe'ef shehetiv. I think he's saying punkt fakert. Really, Yemal Pita Lasecha is going on any shevach, any tila. Typically, it's negeya by a bracha. I guess they didn't eat in shul in those days, like you see from the Shulchan Aruch. But let's say you hear it, Yeshvei Rabbah. So if you could quickly swallow, avada. But let's say by the time you swallow, you're going to miss Yeshvei Rabbah. So he's saying that it does apply to davening and shevach because lemaisa, that's tilas Hashem. But if you could have both, fine. But let's say it's a question of now or never. So, like back to the original Yisoid, it's not ma'akiv, and don't miss the Davar Shebekadusha. Guten Tag to you. Just what we learned today, Bez Hashem. I think the best is to remember never forget to make a bracha. If you forgot to make a bracha, it's not so simple. Mashka, basically, a full mouthful of mashka you're allowed to swallow below bracha. Either is not chayiv in a bracha, like the Rebbeinu Chanana says, or like Rash says, it's baltashchis, overrides because no chiyah bracha. But basically, midina gemara, mashka boilan without a bracha. The problem is that the Ravid says that's only when there's no other mashkoi. So today it's almost not negeya to swallow mashka b'lei bracha unless someone is stuck, he has nothing else but this type of drink. Oichel, you have one eitzah, either to spit it out, if it's not miyas, make a bracha and put it back, or misalik, put it on the side of your mouth, and we said right or left, depending on when you have a better opportunity to make the bracha, and then make the misalik, and then swallow, because Yimal Pita Lasecha is not ma'akiv. If lemaisa, the question is when you have causes distress to someone else, so then that's part of miyus, and then you can't spit it out. That's the chiddush, which really makes a lot of sense. There is a shita, and that's the rush, that a person could swallow, make a bracha. Afterwards, it goes retroactively, but the Paiskim do not go with that rush. Rabbeinu Chananel chiddush of not chayiv bracha is something that's really more mainstream Paiskim. A person that forgot to make a bracha. So although there's really no eitzah, but a bit out of nechama, we said, Mishnah Berurah says to do this is eat more, make a bracha and eat more food. It works like one of the shittas or two of the shittas, but it's enough of a nechama. We saw even a bigger chiddush that maybe the bracha Achrona will help for that person. But basically, if a person has more food, it's kedai to make a bracha, and that might be a ktsas tikkun. A little water in the mouth, or a little mashka in the mouth, so it's probable that you should make a bracha on that and then swallow it. That would be a silik where you could do a silik we could do by a mashka as well. We even said if your mouth is full, drink half and then swallow half and then make a bracha on the other half. That makes sense. But again, it's only if you, in a case where you have no other mashka. Water, pashtis, there is no baltashka like the marsham. Others say there is. But anyhow, typically you put water in your mouth from a fountain, you will have more water, so spit it out, of course, when no one is looking. A person puts food in his mouth during a tainus, spit it out, there's no heta to swallow it, and baltashkas is not a factor at all. Today we saw eitzes of toichadei dibur, but it doesn't seem to work because you had an abalei bracha. The eitz of hirer is a very shvacha eitzah, some say to do it, but most poskim reject it. A strand of food, crumbs in the mouth, you found after Bracha Achrona, you could swallow as it is. Yemale pi tilasecha is even on Bracha Achrona, as we said. There are two concerns: it ruins the bracha, or it takes away from the fullness of the involvement in the bracha. Ring in the mouth or a sleeve in the mouth, of course, should not be done. A normal amount of saliva or some small crumbs is okay. The bite plate should be removed when possible. The invisalign can be kept. Davish Kedusha, we said you can make if there's no other choice, you could say the Davish Kedusha with food in your mouth. I forgot to mention, if it's a problem of a masichem besud, and he might choke on it, avada, he shouldn't. But today people have some reason not choishes for that. So if he knows how to do it without coming to sakana, you could answer Davish Kedusha with food in your mouth.